Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about 2025 for Sagittarius. Yes, we're going to get into this. Now, before we do, if you do find the information presented today to be helpful, then please be sure to give the video a like and to, of course, subscribe. And if you would like to book a reading with me, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find the astrology products I offer. Thank you so much. Okay, so Sagittarius, we're going to be talking all about you today. Now, if Sagittarius is on the rising in your chart, then this video is especially going to be for you, right? You're going to relate to the information perhaps the most. However, even if the sun or the moon are in the sign of Sagittarius in your chart, then hey, you know what? Give the video a watch, see how things resonate with you, see if you maybe benefit from the information in some way. Especially if sun is in Sagittarius and you have a day chart, then yes, I recommend watching. Or if the moon is in Sagittarius in your chart and you've got a night chart, similar, right? Same thing. But just remember that when we explore the sun, moon, and rising, it's for all different purposes, you know. So when we think about the sun, it's more about our soul's purpose, our mission. It's more of that conscious part of ourselves. And when we look to the moon is more about the unconscious and our emotions. Furthermore, then, I just want to say, Sagittarius, Happy New Year. We're coming into a whole new year. Naturally, it is not the astrological new year, but still happy 2025. On that note, the thing about the beginning of 2025 is the sun activates your second house. So we enter 2025. So with the sun in Capricorn in second Sagittarius, hopefully then you will be ushering in the new year with perhaps more of this celebration to do with your resources and your finances. I'm even thinking here about how for everybody, right, Pluto has resided within that Capricorn sector of their charts for the past 16 years. So for you then, this has been in your second house. So many challenges and transformations and renewals when we think about finances and your physical security. A lot of harsh truths, harsh realities here, Sagittarius. Therefore, coming into the new year, hopefully with the sun in your second and Pluto not there, it can feel a bit like a celebration, or it could just be where you feel this greater sense of focus and purpose and determination. Now, whenever we get to the astrological new year, well, Aries season kickstarts the astrological new year, and Aries resides in your fifth house. So there's a lot then coming up for you this year when we consider your heart, following your heart. We think about your passions, your creative pursuits, your hobbies, your interests, all of these things. So coming into the astrological new year with the sun there, such matters will be focused on strongly, especially because, well, we're going to talk about other things such as Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde. We've also got Neptune and Saturn entering Aries. So there's a lot happening in the Aries house. And I would also say consider the Pisces house too, because there is that threshold. There is a lot going on basically within both Pisces and Aries throughout 2025. But indeed, coming into the new year, the astrological new year, perhaps it's going to really highlight some kind of fun, play, and entertainment for you, Sagittarius. Time off, hopefully. Okay, so January. Let's break this down. January. We have at the beginning of the new year Mars retrograde in your 9th house. So Mars retrograde is from the 6th of December until the 23rd of February. And Mars retrograde in Leo specifically is from the 6th of December until the 6th of January. So coming into the new year, what we have here is actually a lot to do with higher education, understanding, furthering your knowledge really here. We think about your knowledge goals, advanced training goals. We think about long distance travel here, exploring new destinations, maybe considering which kinds of destinations or subjects light you up, which ones you enjoy, which ones you're proud. You're proud about them. You're proud of yourself for being determined or for being driven. Naturally, with Mars being retrograde, it will be a good opportunity then for you, Sagittarius, to reflect, right? To perform some kind of honest review, to maybe consider here, okay, what are my goals when it comes to higher education? How can I even step up to a potential challenge? How can I grow and learn through this challenge? We think about your strength, your willpower, your drive. But of course, with Mars being retrograde, it's good to maybe just take a step back and to consider, okay, well, where am I coming from? Where am I headed? Maybe there are some interesting adventures or new experiences that you want to open yourself up to, but it's still about being able to gradually process those things, to ask yourself, hopefully, the bigger questions, to consider the very meaning of these opportunities, what you want truly here, Sagittarius. Then we see here that Mars retrograde by the 6th of January until the 23rd of February. Mars retrograde comes into your 8th house. Okay, so in Cancer. So we come from this area of your life that's more about self-exploration, self-discovery. It's more about broadening your horizons. But then the 8th house is much more intense and psychological. There could be some potential goals that you review related to the unconscious. Maybe there's something about grief here, loss. Such areas could also specifically be tied to your family, your upbringing. Maybe there's something quite therapeutic about Mars coming into Cancer in the 8th, right? So maybe some healing techniques, something to do with therapy itself and psychoanalysis. Perhaps this is also why it would behoove you to slow down, to take care of yourself, to try to relax, to manage your stress levels if you can. Yeah, there could be a lot that is felt very deeply. So in this way, just take the time, be gentle with yourself, hopefully. I think especially Mars retrograde in Cancer, there could be that explosive feeling or this tension, right? It's this feeling like, oh, I just want to explode. I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed, right? So hopefully we can look at this as you nurturing yourself, being kind to yourself, okay? Being that caregiver, if you will, that motherly figure, if you will, right, with the Cancerian archetype. So yeah, we could hopefully see this as you using Mars retrograde to your benefit by really going within and maybe considering as well what you need. Okay, what are your emotional needs and how do you go about getting your needs met? Ooh, interesting. Maybe a lot of stuff to do with intimacy will come up, right? Some feelings there related to intimacy. So moving on to the 11th of January. So the 11th of January welcomes the changing of the nodes. All right. So the North Node and the South Node have been in your 5th and 11th houses since July of 2023, Sagittarius. So there has been a lot coming up for you over the past 18 months with relation to how you assert your ego or how you assert your individuality, how you take the initiative when it comes to your children or when it comes to your hobbies, your creativity. But there's also been a lot coming up with relation to the role that you play within the group, within the team. Okay, so being a bit of a mediator, trying to find a common ground, maybe you organizing certain group events, hosting particular events, and also with the South Node especially, hopefully easing up on any people-pleasing tendencies within the group or codependency tendencies within the group, whilst welcoming more of this inflow to do with you standing up for yourself or to do with you going after the things you want when it comes to the things you love, the things you genuinely enjoy. Okay, following your authenticity, aligning with your authenticity. And this is also partly why I have said this is a year where you follow your heart. And there's more to this because we'll be talking about Neptune, for example, Venus, for example, in the fifth. But the fifth house indeed can show up as this area of our lives where we really align with our heart's desire. So the North Node being there, I feel like has welcomed you following that. Okay, so we then see the North Node coming into Pisces and then the South Node coming into Virgo. So from the 11th of January for the next 18 months, we see here more of this focus on that of your career versus your family life, your public persona, how you show up socially versus your private self, who you are with your family, who you are when you're surrounded by people you're the most comfortable with, okay? So as the South Node in the 10th house in Virgo sort of suggests, okay, time to let things go if it is that you are excessively worrying about how you're perceived or how you're recognized. But it's time to also embrace that of really retreating, healthy escapism, some form of solitude, relaxation here, being able to go into hiding if or when you need to. Maybe more so thinking spiritually about your private life and hopefully as well considering what you need emotionally. Being able to step away, for example, from the public eye when you need to. If it does feel as if it's too stressful, it's too overwhelming, there's too many things that I'm having to manage here. Because the thing about, I suppose, Virgo in the 10th, especially with the South Node, it could be ever so tempting to want to do it all, to help everybody, to be of service to everybody. But you have to then think about how are you giving to yourself, right? The North Node in Pisces, I feel, is going to be such an emotional wake-up call for you, Sagittarius. And even just to further speak a little bit to the North Node in Aries, I do want you to recall Chiron has been there for a good few years. So what has also been ushered in over the past 18 months or so and a couple of years is that of, okay, what is it that you're healing, addressing to do with your child-like self? Thinking about the inner child, I feel like a lot of very challenging emotions have come up and have been calling you to listen. We think about the things that you perhaps enjoyed as a child, how you played, how you had fun. And maybe there's some wound there, right? Maybe there's some scar or some pain there with relation to fun and play and being childlike, being spontaneous, having a good time, being able just to let your hair down and be in the moment. Yes. So basically here, we're going to see the nodes change on the 11th of January, and there will be a whole new set of lessons and just further development, I suppose you could say. Okay. So whenever we also move on to Uranus, Uranus is going to turn direct in your 6th house on the 30th of January. Okay, so the Uranus retrograde will have been from the 1st of September until the 30th of January. So Uranus retrograde in the 6th for you specifically has been your opportunity to truly review how things have been progressing and changing in very unexpected ways when it comes to your work, your routines, your services you offer, your health as well. Perhaps there have been some epiphanies, some breakthroughs, unexpected changes, but naturally, with Uranus being retrograde, all of this stuff can feel extra enlightening, almost like this spiritual awakening, if you will. Okay. And with Taurus, your bodily sensations come into this. We could also see this as just change. Okay. Really stepping into and embracing this change of pace. Okay. Being able to grow and to evolve as an individual, uniquely so here when it comes to your health. So Uranus turning direct in the 6th could be this opportunity of, okay, well, time to move forward. I can see that more clearly. I can see that more vividly. I can see how I've done this honest review within myself. And now I'm ready to implement those lessons. And you could also find with Uranus turning direct that it could just feel like a switch. It's interesting because Uranus can represent like these lightning bolt moments, these aha moments, eureka, right? So even Uranus turning direct, it could also feel like that, but maybe in a different way. It's almost like you see things very differently outside of yourself. Maybe you see coworker relationships differently, for example. You see how you go about doing your everyday routines in a very different way, for example. And then what you can do is apply what you learn practically, but again, differently. Okay, so February. Now we move on to February. I'm going to try my best to speed this up for you, Sagittarius. So February, what we see is your ruler, Jupiter, turning direct in the 7th. So Jupiter retrograde has been from the 9th of October until the 4th of February. So basically, what we've been seeing for you throughout this period is just, well, you being able to reassess the growth of your partnerships and your relationships. This is about you taking that time to focus more on, okay, well, what am I really learning? What am I learning about whenever I see other people or interact with them, whenever I collaborate, perhaps in a communicative way, in an educational way. Naturally, this could be within a business setting, but whenever I do that, what am I learning from the other person? What do the other people I'm with, what do they have to teach me about myself, right? I feel like there's this extra curiosity toward the other for you. So Jupiter retrograde is just your opportunity to really refine that, or just reflect, go within, find deeper meaning. Is it that there's something that you didn't quite understand before? And because Jupiter is retrograde, you can understand things a lot more clearly. Because you're able to possibly draw from your own personal experiences and then kind of reflect that back or relate that back to other people. And it could also be, really looking to some form of inspiration. And such forms of inspiration could be somehow tied to the past. And it's almost like it's through the other that you're awakened to that, or it comes in. So Jupiter turning direct in the 7th, again, is just your opportunity to consider, right, okay, well, what did I learn there? How have I grown? Okay, I can actually move forward with the things that I questioned, the beliefs, my beliefs about relationships and partnerships. I can now start to move forward after questioning those things. And there could even be some kind of gift or blessing or reward or talent, right? Because that's the thing about Jupiter. Jupiter can also be about blessings, gifts, And maybe a part of the gift related to Jupiter in your 7th is the gift of collaboration, the gift of community, the gift of participation, learning through the other. And possibly this has been, yes, about learning via business partners, but also clients and customers, maybe how you market yourself, how you advertise yourself, maybe how it is that you show up within your marriage, within your long-term committed relationship. And then remember that with Jupiter being your ruler, a lot of this stuff is about you, your identity, your aims, your goals, where you're headed, right? It's about your direction, following your own roadmap. Maybe the Jupiter retrograde has been an opportunity for you to look over that roadmap. It's like, okay, reviewing honestly, where am I coming from? Right? Where am I coming from whenever I follow my relationships to this point, my business to this point, coworker situations, friendship situations, right? And where am I headed? Where am I then headed? So a lot to do with your direction and your personal path. And maybe we could also then look at this as relating to your family in some way, your home life, your living situation, because Jupiter also rules your 4th. Okay, so then we move on to Mars direct. So Mars direct will happen on the 23rd of February and the 8th. So basically, just with Mars direct, remember that from the 23rd of February until the 2nd of May, Mars will be in the post shadow period. So that's just really a way for you to, for instance, mull things over when it comes to the things that you revisited and you re-examined during the retrograde. So for example, if it is that you revisit some intimacy situation, maybe it is really related to SEX because, well, Mars rules SEX. So if you revisit that, then use Mars direct just as a way to integrate, refine things a little bit more, add tweaks. Again, mull things over. Try and not, speed ahead, rush ahead. Just take your time. And another possible way to possibly look at this is this stuff could be related to your children because Mars does rule your 5th. So again, mull things over when it comes to anything child related that you reviewed during the retrograde. Hey, it could also be somehow tied to therapy, psychoanalysis, counseling, spiritual practices, because, well, Scorpio also rules your 12th, and that sign is Mars ruled. March. Okay, we're going to get into March, and March is going to be a really active month for everybody. So if you see here this calendar, it's just an overview of the dates, important dates. So take note. We're just going to break it down as best as we can. Okay, so Venus is going to be retrograde starting from the 1st of March until the 12th of April. Venus is retrograde in your 5th house from the 1st of March until the 27th of March. So Venus retrograde in your 5th in Aries, I think, will be your opportunity here, Sagittarius, to go over, okay, romance. Romance, fire, heat, passion, aliveness, SEX again here, especially with Aries involved. There could be some relationship matters that you reflect upon, you revisit. Maybe there's something here about spicing things up, wanting to improve the ways in which you show up romantically. This could also be related to your self-worth, your self-esteem. So let's say, for example, that you want to show up in a different way romantically, and maybe that's somehow tied to your confidence, and then that within itself is tied to your self-worth. So maybe Venus retrograde could be your opportunity to take a closer look, right? Take a closer look. And because I'm thinking here, because Venus does rule your 6th, maybe there's something about your health that is a part of this, right? It's almost like there is a health situation that naturally can influence or make you think more strongly about confidence and your self-esteem, or it could be some kind of ideology or some bigger like a bigger societal issue that could very well be playing on your mind, something related to justice or fairness, for instance, because Libra does rule the 11th. But essentially, Venus retrograde here in Aries in the 5th house, it's your opportunity to re-examine how you show up within these love life, romantic life settings. But also, we could look at this as you taking a closer look at maybe your finances, considering your own personal goals there when it comes to your finances, how you may, what you may desire to spend your money on. There could be some kind of clear out or a freshening up sort of thing, or there could be even like a fashion related matter that you take a closer look at. And maybe a part of that, again, it's tied to confidence, maybe your sex appeal. Hey, okay, with Venus and Aries. And, to put relationships to the side for a moment and sex, we could also look at this as you maybe wanting to revisit how you earn money from your hobby, from your passion, from your interest. We think about creativity as well. There could be some refreshing, a refreshment to do with your creativity, something spicy. Okay, and then Venus retrograde will come into your 4th house from the 27th of March until the 12th of April. So this part is much more focused on that of depth, intuition. It's more spiritual, it's more emotional. There's something here about merging. There's something here about feeling connected spiritually, emotionally with certain family members. So, for instance, this could look like you maybe reconnecting with certain family members, but in a way that's more emotionally supportive, in a way where there's great healing and there's a gentleness, right? There's a tenderness present. We could also look at this as you considering your own body and how your body truly feels, and how even your emotions somehow speak to that, right? What kind of emotions are maybe trapped or holding you back, or which emotions can be shifted and changed about a little bit there. And maybe a part of that is tied to connection, relating to others. Again, it could be about the past, it could be working with the subconscious. We think about subconscious reprogramming there with Pisces. Could even be here, Sagittarius, that you really do go into this private space, if you will, within your home, and you get so creative. Oh my goodness, you get so creative. You go with this vision, you really go with the flow, and you're guided in remarkable ways. So, yeah, there could be a lot of beautiful discoveries that come through, right? We think about this cosmic stuff to do with Pisces, cosmic downloads, for instance. Okay, so Mercury, right? Mercury comes along and also is retrograde in Aries and Pisces, which I find to be quite interesting. Just it's mind-blowing how the astrology is lining up. But anyway, from the 15th of March until the 7th of April, Mercury retrograde occurs. So Mercury retrograde in Aries is from the 15th of March until the 29th of March. So basically, we were talking previously about Venus retrograde in Aries in the 5th and how that could show up as, okay, time to consider, all right, how am I showing up within my romantic relationships? But Mercury retrograde adds this layer of intellect, this layer of reaching new conclusions and trying to maybe address verbally, okay, well, what is it that you think? For instance, when you think about romance and love, you can maybe ask your romantic partner what they think or what they desire, what they find to be pleasurable. But also, I feel like this is about you communicating what you want, right? What you desire romantically, what you desire when it comes to pleasure. And don't get me wrong, with Chiron, All right. And with Chiron also in the fifth, such things could also be quite triggering, quite challenging here when we think about it. There could be some things like fear or fearing that you'll be rejected. There could be fears of abandonment there. There could be some deeper issues and concerns there. There could even be some things that come up with relation to heartache, as an example. But still, Mercury retrograde is about communication. You may revisit older ideas, older discussions, older conversations. Now, this could also be about being a bit of a trailblazer or a pioneer, a leader when it comes to your creativity and your hobbies, right? So we think about creative pursuits here with the fifth house. So Mercury retrograde could be perhaps an example of this could be certain creative ideas that maybe you locked away or you set on the shelf, you put on the shelf rather for a period of time. But the Mercury retrograde could be where, okay, it's time to bring them out. It's time to revisit those. Yeah, older ideas, older messages could just come through. And those things could be really valuable. They could be super valuable, and you could then maybe feel inspired or eager as well. And then Mercury retrograde comes into the fourth, and that will be from the 29th of March until the 7th of April. All right. So Mercury, again, is more about thoughts. It's more about communication. So in a similar fashion, we could see this as you looking over, revisiting older conversations with family members. Hey, this could be where many secrets are revealed. Let's just put it that way, right? This could be where in a family situation, there's a lot of talk happening, and all of a sudden you discover something very eye-opening. And it's something that maybe was not disclosed for such a long time, but it could also be where there is a lot to do with your dreams coming through, right? Your dreams could be speaking to you, and those dreams and those messages and the symbolism there could be tied to family. We think about the past, we think about memory when it comes to the fourth house, but we also could see this as you keeping to yourself privately during this part of Mercury retrograde. And again, with Venus also being retrograde in Pisces, perhaps the part of the reason for why you're keeping to yourself is because maybe it is quite a personal matter. Maybe it is something related to your relationships, and that's something you want to keep between you and your significant other, or you and your brother, you and your sister, whoever have you. Or it could be something more so about your body and your self-worth that comes up during that time. And again, Mercury retrograde in Pisces is just your way to hopefully just think things over, to contemplate, to go within and to say, okay, how does this feel? On an emotional level, what is going on with me? And at the same time, hopefully as well, we could look at this as you feeling inspired artistically, creatively, right? So it's interesting. There could be some more challenging situations that you reconsider and you re-examine, but there could also be some more creative matters, right? We could look at this as, for example, film or media just inspiring you in a whole different light. This could be about hidden knowledge. This could be about spiritual practices. And because you take that time and you revisit those areas, it's almost like you can come out of that period, the retrogrades, and arrive to this whole new vision. And here, this is where I think it's important. We'll get to that in a minute, right? Because Neptune coming into the fifth for you, I think that could be really where it's almost like an awakening moment. You growing, blossoming, so to speak, when it comes to your creativity. So that's going to be interesting. But before we get to Neptune, let's think about the eclipses. So March is going to be eclipse season. We have on the 14th of March, the lunar eclipse in your 10th. And then on the 29th of March, we have the solar eclipse in your 5th. Okay. Oh, this is so fascinating. All right. So the lunar eclipse in the 10th is kind of like a grand opening, right? There's a new set of eclipses happening in your axis of career and home life. So many changes are up ahead here, Sagittarius, but the lunar eclipse in Virgo then could be like a clearing out, a decluttering, getting rid of what doesn't work, getting rid of what doesn't serve you when it comes to a professional matter, when it comes to a reputation matter, okay? More about the eclipses naturally will come in their own videos, but then we come to the 29th of March, the solar eclipse in Aries. Right. This within itself will be like a closing, right? Because the solar eclipse in Aries will close out this two-year period, about that, of eclipses in the sectors of your life that rule your ego, your individuality, your self-expression versus how you show up within the group, with teams, things like that, contributions to the group. So the solar eclipse on the 29th of March in Aries could be where actually you set new intentions, you embrace new chapters to do with this creative vision, to do with something that you're passionate about, something that lights you up, following your heart, Sagittarius. So this leads us onto Neptune. Okay. So Neptune comes into your 5th on the, if I just get my notes here, comes into your 5th on the 30th. Okay, so the 30th of March, Neptune enters the 5th. So from the 30th of March until the 4th of July, Neptune is in Aries in your 5th. And I'm going to try and speak a little quieter here because my throat is still not 100%. Just have not been feeling the best. But anyway, what we're going to see for you is that of a new vision, a new dream. Oh, something very inspirational when it comes to your art, your creativity. The fantasy world opens up to you, but in really exciting, passionate, inspiring ways. The adventure, my goodness, Sagittarius. We could also see this as your creativity almost feeling uncapped, kind of limitless. Now, the challenge with Aries, I suppose you could say, is there can be impatience. there can be this lack of consistency, but we're still going to see this freeing influence. We're going to see so much activity for you, and this passion, this drive, this motivation to perhaps follow your bliss, to follow the things you love, to follow the things that bring you happiness and joy. Now, at the same time, we do want to be cautious of going to extremes, going overboard, getting lost in things, being swept away by things. The thing about Neptune is, yes, Neptune can also be about addiction, right? So it is possible to become somewhat addicted to the sense of adventure and risk and the high, the thrills that all of that stuff brings. But in a healthy way, in a healthy dose, we could hopefully see this as you embracing some more time off and being this trailblazer, right? Being a trailblazer, being a bit of a daredevil. Sports could also fall under the 5th house, of course. So, yeah, we could see you possessing this kind of freeing, euphoric, dreamy energy when it comes to sports and just when it comes to the things that you love and enjoy in general. So there will be more, I'm sure, to come about Neptune closer to the time. Saturn is also going to follow suit. So we'll talk more about Saturn in a moment. Hopefully, Saturn will bring some realism, some practicality. Okay, so April. Let's get into April. Well, we have Mercury turning direct on the 7th of April. So from the 7th of April until the 26th of April, just take some time, Sagittarius, mull things over. Just get a sense for, okay, well, what came up for me during the Mercury retrograde? What did I learn? Which kinds of ideas did I go over? Which conversations did I revisit with my family members? Which creative ideas did I maybe re-examine? Yes, mull things over. Take advantage of that post-shadow period, right? And I say that, but yet I don't even do that. Honestly, guilty. I'm not the best at following post-shadow periods. Okay, Venus then. Venus post-shadow period. So Venus turns direct on the 12th of April. So from the 12th of April until the 16th of May, again, similar to what I was saying with Mercury, mull things over. And just take your time then, maybe, so for instance, if it is that you revisited something financial, something to do with your self-worth, your confidence levels, something to do with your SEX appeal, things like that, just mull things over and see how those events maybe sit with you. Maybe there's something else that didn't quite click into place. And so that post-shadow period could welcome some greater clarity. Alrighty. Moving on, we come to May, and what we have in May is Pluto will turn retrograde in May. So, to firstly mention here, Pluto has been in your third house from the 19th of November. So, from the 19th of November 2024 until the 4th of May, Pluto is direct in your third. All right. So, there's going to be a lot here to do with over the next 20 years, by the way, Sagittarius. A lot here to do with the very transformation of your mind. We are going to see major breakthroughs when it comes to your mindset and your perspective. We could say mindset shifts that are enough to make you go, oh my gosh, I don't even recognize that person anymore. I don't know. Or we could look at this as you sort of rebelling or revolting against anybody who tries to control or manipulate your mind or tell you how to think. That's an interesting one, right? Because we could see with Pluto there, the power struggles and the power plays. We could see people trying to overstep their mark, so to speak, or trying to nosy or pry into your business, especially when it comes to things like your siblings or your cousins. There, we see maybe neighbors being a part of this, but Pluto coming into Aquarius sort of says, not today. No, I am not going to have that. I'm not going to stand for that. I'm going to possibly even stand up for the underdog. I'm going to stand up for what is right and true. Plus, we could see this as you transforming when it comes to a particular subject matter. And my goodness, you just really evolving. My gosh, the evolution of a subject, you're going to soar. Let's just put it that way, Sagittarius. So, Pluto retrograde in the 3rd from the 4th of May until the 13th of October. Well, it's just your opportunity to go over, right? Okay, well, what have I been learning so far? What about myself? How have I transformed so far? What about this whole death and rebirth stuff to do with Pluto? What kinds of skin have I shed? How have I grown up until this point? And maybe this will also be your opportunity to take a closer look at your shadow, to maybe come to terms with anything that is hidden, out of clear view, to tap into your personal power. This could also be about you shedding old skin when it comes to certain narratives or stories that you tell yourself. Yes, time to have an honest review and to also see, okay, this kind of thing that I'm really attached to and I'm obsessive about, maybe I'm kind of addicted to, this is not really good for me, right? We could see obsessive thinking fixations with Pluto in the third. So hopefully Pluto retrograde can be your opportunity to review such matters. Then we come to Saturn, right? So Saturn is going to move into the fifth and it'll enter the fifth, just get my notes, on the 24th of May. So from the 24th of May until the 13th of July, Saturn is in Aries in the fifth. Direct. So with Neptune coming into the fifth prior, it could feel like, oh my gosh, everything's just uncapped, unlimited. I have this instant source to creativity and all these passions and these interests. And it's beautiful, right? It could be like a really beautiful thing. But Saturn, you see, comes in and says, right, well, you want to make that happen? You want to go for that? Well, you need to also be patient. You need to be precise. You need to think about the long haul here, right? Saturn is, let's put it this way, Saturn is delayed gratification. Delayed. Now in Aries, right? Aries, what is Aries? Aries likes to do things now, fast. You, Sagittarius, with Aries in your fifth, you can be like this, right? You can be the types of people where you just want things now, 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 now. Okay. So Saturn is going to come and is going to be like this force of, you also need to discipline yourself, right? This creative pursuit, this hobby, this interest of yours, this thing you do in during your spare time, there's the enthusiasm, there's the passion, we respect it, but we also want to think about how you can build, how you can steadily build, how you can maybe tap into and allow for delayed gratification. And remember, when it comes to Saturn, what you put in is what you get out. And with Saturn as well, there can be great reward, great wealth, great security that comes from commitment and integrity as well. Now, before we move on, I would like to mention that with Neptune and Saturn coming into the fifth, this is going to be your first round, so to speak, of what it's going to feel like to have Neptune and Saturn in the fifth, Sagittarius. This is just the beginning. But you see, both planets will begin their full term, their full transits in 2026. And on the 19th of February 2026, Neptune and Saturn conjunct in your fifth, ushering in a whole new 35-year cycle within this fifth house area related to children, romance, self-expression, your free time, and your creative pursuits. So we are going to see more bigger, significant changes happen, I would say, more throughout 2026 and beyond. So do stay tuned for more information to come. Okay, June. Let's get into June. And what we have here is your ruler, Jupiter, being on the move. So Jupiter actually enters Cancer on the 9th of June. So on the 9th of June, for the next year or so, Jupiter comes into this 8th house sector of your chart. All right, so let's firstly think about how Mars retrograde was in your 8th house at the beginning of the year. So I feel like Mars retrograde in your 8th was a good way for you to clear space, especially energetically, physically, right? We think about your physical energy and your energy levels with Mars. But you see, Jupiter then will welcome expansion and growth and seeing the bigger picture here, greater inspiration, greater vision. So we want to think about applying these qualities to that of shared resources and accounts. We also think about investigation, research, exploring the occult, the paranormal. We could also look at this as things being quite prosperous or plenty of opportunities, much abundance when it comes to a a debt situation, a repayment situation. Luck could be on your side, basically. Maybe this is even a blessing in disguise. It's this sort of influence with Jupiter in the eighth, because I suppose the eighth house is often a hidden house. It can be where we feel like we're in the dark. So maybe Jupiter could act as this blessing in disguise. So even if, for example, okay, things are aligning with me or things are going my way, Jupiter in the eighth in Cancer could actually invite something remarkable underneath the surface. Miracles may be being performed without you seeing them. And such miracles could also be related to or applied to that of your family life, your living situation, your home. Okay. Again, we think about how Jupiter rules the fourth in your chart, and also with Jupiter being in Cancer, Cancer is the archetype that is about family and home. It's also about protection, being quite tenacious and determined, fighting for one's security. So Jupiter could welcome some form of luck, hope, vision there when it comes to these areas. Plus, hey, with the eighth house, it rules other people's money, especially thinking about your partner's money. So maybe, it could be that it's your partner that comes into some money. There could even be some form of inheritance there as an example. But hey, do you know what? Just before we move on to talk about you personally, I think it could more so welcome greater self exploration, right? You may be deciding to go for therapy or broadening your mind in some way, shape, or form through some kind of uh, psychoanalysis process, or this could also be something tied to the spiritual world, the occult, those esoteric subjects and areas too. Just self-development, changing from within. Okay, let's now think about July. So we come into July, and what we have here is Neptune turning retrograde on the 4th of July and the 5th. So essentially, Neptune retrograde is an opportunity to just reassess your visions, your dreams, to think about any illusions, to address particular illusions when it comes to the likes of love, romance, children, and your creativity. It's just a way to reflect, go over what has already came up. Maybe this is about your inner guidance, your intuition, really trusting in that, in your inner guidance. And as well, we think about more of those spiritual themes to do with Neptune. So there could be some spiritual insights that come through naturally. And it could also be where you will be asked in some way, shape, or form to be kind to yourself, to be loving towards yourself, and to be compassionate. It could be a very healing time in this regard. Then Uranus is also on the move. So Uranus comes into the 7th house on the on the 7th of July. Yes. Again, though, I just want to say Uranus coming into Gemini is just the first glimpse of what's to come. Uranus will move back into Gemini for its official transit next year. But basically, Jupiter, remember, has been hanging out in your 7th house for a while. So Jupiter has welcomed more of this expansion and growth, seeing the bigger picture when it comes to business partnerships, when it comes to long-term committed relationships, your marriage, your spouse, things of that nature. So Uranus then is going to follow this path, and around July then 2025, Uranus is going to act as this shaker, this awakener. There could be something that's quite shattering or surprising or jarring when it comes to your relationship matter. It could be that something about your partnerships just, it catches you off guard, it catches you by surprise. And sure, that could be in an enlightening, exciting, and exuberant way, but it could also be in a way that maybe it feels a little bit off-putting or throws you off balance. But, we could also see this as you embracing that challenge, like, stepping up to it and being able to shift things around, right? To embrace the change, so to speak, rather than to fight against it. And we could also see this as major breakthroughs, right? Major educational or intellectual breakthroughs, especially within partnerships. So those are just a couple of examples, but there will be much more information to come, I'm sure, about Uranus in the 7th for you. Moving on to Saturn. So Saturn is also going to turn retrograde, and it will begin its retrograde motion from the 13th of July until the 27th of November. So there will be this part of Saturn in retrograde in your 5th house. Okay, so what Saturn retrograde in your 5th will invite you to do is to basically just go over, right, already over the past few weeks, what is it that I'm maybe feeling about potential challenges and blockages when it comes to love, romance, my individuality, my self-expression, and how can I step up to those challenges? I feel like Saturn coming into Aries is going to add so much grit and focus and determination and discipline to a sign that is used to being very instant and fast and pushing to get what it wants. So I feel like, sure, okay, just to say here, yes, Saturn is in its fall in Aries, and maybe this is where we see some of that tension and that frustration. But whenever hopefully we can work with Saturn in Aries, we can really look at it as delayed gratification. We can look at it as, okay, there's something to learn here, and I got to be patient. I got to stay focused. So, Saturn retrograde in your 5th house here, Sagittarius, could invite this honest time to reflect, to slow down, to really think about, right, okay, whenever Saturn first entered the 5th house, these are the roadblocks or the obstacles that I'm noticing about my self expression or about the relationship that I have with my children. Okay, let me just look at that stuff. Let me really gain a deeper insight. So, yeah, there will be a lot to be said here, I feel, especially for you, Sagittarius, with the 5th house, a lot to do with your personal development and that growth. And you're all about growth and improvement and learning. Okay, moving on. Moving on to Mercury. So, what we have here is Mercury retrograde from the 18th of July until the 11th of August. So, Mercury retrograde will happen in the 9th house for you during this time. Well, let's think about how Mars was retrograde in your 9th house at the very beginning of 2025. And so that could have maybe helped you see, okay, how aligned am I with my vision? How aligned am I with my meaning? And how do I direct myself, right? Really, how do I drive forward when it comes to such matters? Because naturally, Mars is about our actions. Mars is about our drive and our will to do. So Mercury retrograde then in the 9th invites more of this intellectual way of seeing things. I think this could be perspective shifts. This could be reframing how you view your philosophies, your beliefs. There could be something about your worldviews that you take a closer look at. Maybe you decide to educate yourself further, especially to gain deeper understandings about things. Naturally, there can also be some delays when it comes to travel, especially traveling abroad with with Mercury retrograde in the 9th house. And naturally, with that, there could be some mishaps, miscommunication, misunderstandings. But hey, that is to be expected during a Mercury retrograde. But it's also, it's a good way for you to maybe take a closer look at what your beliefs are, your philosophies are, what you are educating yourself on. Just go over certain topics and subjects to maybe gain a deeper understanding about education and how it is also that you present information to the world, how you maybe educate others, how you teach them. Something about mentorship or coaching could come up, for instance. So, yeah, just take that time to honestly review things, right? Then we move on to August, and what we see throughout August. What we see throughout August is that Mercury will turn direct, and Mercury will turn direct on the 11th of August. So from the 11th of August until the 25th of August, just similar to what I've been saying, mull things over. Just take some time to integrate whatever came up during whatever comes up during the Mercury retrograde, and just to think things through. And there could be some other things that come up that maybe you weren't quite sure about. So indeed, mull things over. Okay, so whenever we come to September of 2025, what do we have for you, Sagittarius? We have Saturn retrograde entering your fourth. So what I want you to remember about this one is this is the final Saturn retrograde in the fourth house for you for another like 30 years or so. So take the time, right? Use this time period to your benefit. So from the 1st of September until the 27th of November, take all the time you need there to be able to review the life lessons, the lessons learned so far when it comes to family matters, family situations, especially thinking about responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions within the family, within your home, but also just responsibility in general. You know, who are you responsible for? Who are you not responsible for? This has been a good way for you to truly grow up, to be somewhat adult-like when it comes to family situations. But I think at the same time, you know, a part of Saturn in the fourth, it's been teaching you about healthy boundary setting. We've seen this with Saturn in Pisces because Pisces can be so passive at times and so enmeshed with everybody else. So Saturn is more of this force, right? This holding force, this structure, this barrier of no, I am not gonna tolerate certain behaviors from certain people. This is my line. This is my boundary. If you cross it, then you're gonna face the consequences of that. So I feel like the Saturn retrograde coming into your fourth is just going to be your way to honestly think about how you've grown there, right? How you've maybe addressed reality, how you've confronted reality within family situations, seeing past certain illusions. We'll get more onto Neptune in a moment, but we also have Uranus. So Uranus will turn retrograde in Gemini. So this will happen from the 6th of September. Uranus will be retrograde from the 6th of September coming into 2026. So with this section of Uranus retrograde in Gemini, I think it could be where, again, similar to what I've been saying about Uranus, there could be certain relationship and partnership matters that catch you by surprise. It could also be an interesting way to reinvent yourself or to reconsider mentally, right? How might things really shift when it comes to partnership and collaboration? And again, with Uranus being retrograde, you know, there is more of this internal view. It's more about reflection and embracing some form of change. Maybe even this is about evolving in some way, shape, or form within a one-to-one partnership. And because Uranus is retrograde, things could feel very enlightening, right? There could be this kind of awakened influence because Uranus is the awakener. And it could also be a way for you to break past certain narratives that no longer serve you, right? There could be these shakeups and these breakthroughs that happen. Indeed. So then we come to more eclipses. So we have the lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 7th of September in your fourth. So that will just basically be a way to shed old skin, to release, let go. When it comes to a certain enmeshment or emerging situation, perhaps with family members. Maybe being able to honestly see where you become too involved, possibly, could also be an opportunity for you to go within and to consider how spiritually aligned are you with certain family values, or living situation matters there. Could also be particular rewards, or it could be something coming to fruition, like this realization, even when it comes to a living home matter. Okay. Maybe emotional attachment shifts could happen where you let go and where you even find greater inner peace. Then we have the solar eclipse in Virgo in your 10th house on the 21st of September. And so then that will usher in notable changes, notable shifts within your professional lives, your career. And even if you are a Sagittarius and you are not that age where you are working, maybe you're retired, this could be an opportunity for you to embrace something new to do with purpose, or embrace something new to do with your reputation or your public persona. Maybe it's about recognition, right? There's some form of work recognition, or there's something here about helping others, wanting to give to other people. But do keep in mind, with the South Node also in Virgo, it will be an important thing to remember that there's only so many people you can help in one day, okay? And hopefully then not getting too caught up in being this fixer. More to come about the eclipses, I'm sure, in their own videos. This is all just very brief. It's an overview of the year ahead. So October, what does October have in store? Well, we have Pluto direct. So the Pluto will turn direct on the 13th of October. So after this period of facing your shadow, coming to terms with fixation, power struggles within conversations, power struggles when it comes to communication or learning, neighbors, cousins, etc., relatives, hopefully then after this period of possibly purging or eliminating a few things, you can rise, you can evolve, you can come from a greater focus of depth and insight, and then apply what you learn from the retrograde uh, to that of how you show up within your local area. And indeed, it could feel like a bit of a phoenix rising moment, or it could be where you really step into your personal power in some way, shape, or form. We do want to consider the fact that, yes, Pluto is a very slow moving planet, and this is maybe where what's going to be especially significant is, do you have any planets in Aquarius? Is there a conjunction there between Aquarius planets and Pluto, or are there interesting aspects happening to Pluto? So between Pluto and your personal planets, just to make it all that more personal here. Okay, and then we come to Neptune. So Neptune retrograde comes into the fourth, just a moment. So yes, Neptune retrograde comes into the fourth. So similar to what I was saying here about Saturn, this is the final Neptune retrograde in Pisces for a very long time, much longer than Saturn. I mean, we're talking about 150 years, something like that. Very long indeed. So take the time. We see here that it's on the 22nd of October. Neptune retrograde comes into your fourth, Sagittarius. So basically, I think it'll be I think it's like a bittersweet feeling with Neptune. I feel like it could be where there's the potentiality of romanticizing the past, especially for you in the fourth, right? So there could be this reflective piece where you romanticize, you go over, oh, well, it was like this, and these sweet memories, these sweet dreams. And you could sort of paint an image of how you wished things were as well. But then you see, it could also be a case of, with Neptune, some form of suffering or pain or a lot of emotion coming up and needing to be released. There could be a lot of that happening. So it could be very emotionally powerful. So Yeah, indeed. There could be something here about feeling ready to move on to the next step and being able to let go of certain deceptions and illusions to do with family and home and the past and seeing things not all that clearly. But it could also be where, wow, it's ending, it's over. Wow, we're coming into a new time period. And well, there's no going back to the way things were. A lot of letting go, I think, with Neptune, especially Neptune finishing up in Pisces. Then we have November. Okay, so when we move on to November, we have Uranus entering Taurus on the 7th of November. So, similar conversation. So, Saturn and Neptune are finishing up in Pisces. Uranus is also finishing up in Taurus. This will be the final retrograde of Uranus in Taurus for like 70, 80 years, something like that. Also a very long time. So, indeed, what we could see come up for you, Sagittarius, is just take that time to consider how you have grown when it comes to things like consistency and stability within your working lives, the services you've provided. Maybe some things have been quite surprising and shocking. Things have changed unexpectedly. You've been knocked off certain paths and, you've been sort of directed toward completely different roles. Your health perhaps has been all over the place, possibly. It could be that things that you've wanted to stay stable and steady have not. This could also be where strains to your finances have happened. There could also be this, okay, I have to really persist, even though life is just throwing so much at me. So with Uranus retrograde, again, similar message, just re-examine a few things, see what you've learned. See what you've learned. And maybe a part of it will be moments of like these lightning bolt moments, these flashes of insight that catch you off guard, and you see, it's almost like you see things in a flash and you see what you must do when it comes to the next step forward, especially as Uranus leaves Taurus and goes back into Gemini, which will be in 2026. I'm sure there will be more information to come about this, but this is just an overview, everybody. Then we have the final Mercury retrograde of 2025, and it begins from your sign, Sagittarius. So Mercury retrograde will be from the 9th of November until the 29th of November. So from the 9th of November until the 18th of November, Mercury retrograde will be in your sign. So Mercury retrograde basically in your sign is just your way to maybe go over what your aims and your goals are. What is it that you're aiming for? Re-examining, revisiting your roadmap, thinking about your guidance. So how are you being guided? How are you being directed? Are you following your moral compass? Are you aligning basically with your morals? Are you aligning with your principles? It will also be a good way for you to perhaps think more so about your identity and how you wish to expand and grow, any significant new goals or passions or like things that you want to achieve. Basically, yeah, there could be a lot that you want to do, many things that you want to do and achieve, but Mercury retrograde could just be your way to hopefully take a closer look and maybe revisit older ideas, older options. Then we have Mercury retrograde coming into your 12th. That will be from the 18th of November until the 29th of November. So this part of the retrograde will really be a time of getting to the root of things, getting to the depths of things, and pulling layer by layer off. this will be a way for you to really reprogram the subconscious there. A lot will come through, possibly about trauma, triggers, the past. We could see this as you addressing anything that's limited or hindering, so limiting you or hindering you. There could be some things that you don't want to see, you'd rather not see, but really it's a good way for you to face your fears, Sagittarius. And with that, just remember that, just a moment, sorry. Mercury will turn direct on the 29th of November. So from the 29th of November until the 16th of December, mull things over, right? Just take some time to see what came up for you, what significant messages came through for you, and then you can take your time to process that. Okay. Then we come to, again, your ruler, Jupiter. So Jupiter is going to turn retrograde in the 8th house. It's interesting to me because whilst there's a conversation here to do with Mercury retrograde in the 12th in Scorpio, and that could be where there's something here about transformation or shedding old skin to do with your subconscious, your fears, your phobias, what hinders you, right? The self-undoing with the 12th house. But you see, Jupiter will also be in the 8th and will turn retrograde from the from the 11th of November coming into 2026. So that will also be a part of the Scorpio stuff, I think, in some way, shape, or form, where you're gonna dive deeper. You're gonna explore reoccurring themes, reoccurring patterns, psychologically speaking. Again, this stuff could be tied to the past, memories, family, conditioning, your upbringing. Okay, what has been passed on to you? What have you inherited basically from family or through the family line? And also, Jupiter retrograde is just your way to go over, okay, well, how have I expanded and grown so far when it comes to all of this investigative stuff? How can I listen to my inner guide? How can I really align myself with my inner wisdom, focusing on those things? And a big part of it then is about realignment and reflection. And it's largely about your own personal journey, your own personal growth. Okay, so Saturn will turn direct, woohoo, on the 27th of November. And what I want you to remember is from the 27th of November coming into 2026, that will be the post shadow period of Saturn. So just use Saturn direct in your 4th coming into 2026 as your opportunity to really go over, wow, okay, let me just take some extra time to consider my life lessons. What truly has Saturn taught me over this past 3 years almost, right? Truly, what has came through for me and how have I changed and grown as an individual, as someone who is mature, more well-rounded when it comes to emotional matters, family matters, and your living situation. And then we come into December and Neptune, so December, the end of the year, Neptune will also turn direct and will turn direct on the 10th of December. All right, so similar to what I was saying about Saturn, we're coming to the end of Neptune being in Pisces. So from the 10th of December coming into 2026 with a post-shadow period, mull things over. Just take some time to really reflect on, okay, well, what have I learned about deception and dissolving my own boundaries for others, and how I've been able to, hopefully with the help of Saturn, with the support of Saturn, create healthier boundaries. How have I even surrendered maybe to something bigger than myself? What about my spiritual practices? What have I been really working on within my own home, right? More of your privacy, more of your living situation space, basically, right? It's about you following the things that really lead to greater spiritual awareness for you, and you taking some time to focus on inner peace, your own sanctuary with Neptune in the 4th. yeah, I feel like a lot of Neptune in Pisces has been about peace. And I'm thinking to myself as well here, Sagittarius, perhaps being really compassionate and gentle with yourself, that kindness with respect to Pisces. Yeah, that inner voice, hopefully, that speaks kindly to you. So, yes, take some time to integrate and consider the lessons learned. Okay, Sagittarius, this has been 2025 for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you really did enjoy your horoscope today, you can always buy me a coffee. No pressure to do anything, of course, but essentially, thank you for watching. And please be sure to give the video a like if you benefited, and make sure to subscribe for more videos. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.